If I'm able to teach you anything today, it should be that no matter how badly you think you've screwed something up, you can probably still fix it. So, this is my first video on this channel. Well, it's the first video that I'm filming for this channel. I don't know if it's the first video that I'm going to be posting, and honestly I don't know if I'm going to post anything at all. But I've been really into sewing, and I have been really into it since about July last year. And I've been watching so many YouTubers, like with Wendy and Kiana Bonolo, and I'm blanking on the other one, I think Marlena. I'll pop it here. And it's just been so much fun watching other people make their projects, and I decided that I wanted to try filming me making one of my projects. And I didn't think further than that. I didn't really consider whether anyone would actually want to watch it, but I just thought it would be fun. So I thought I'd take you guys along with me while I try and make my engagement party dress. My qualifications for this is that I have successfully made 2 skirts and semi-successfully made a very casual dress. So needless to say, very qualified. My problem is that I just convince myself that nothing can really be that hard. Especially since I'm using a pattern. Like, at this point I just need to follow instructions. What could go wrong? We're about to find out. Wait, never mind. I realized I forgot to explain what pattern I was going to be using. I'm using the Lexi pattern from VikiSews. I only recently discovered the VikiSews website, but all of their stuff looks really cool. And I saw this dress and I thought it would be perfect for my engagement party. I'm a big fan of the silhouette. I really like the way that the skirts gather at the hips. It just looks like a bit of a banger. Whether it will actually look good on me, different question. Didn't put any thought into that. All I thought was, this looks like a really pretty dress. And so I bought the pattern. And up to this point, I have printed out the pattern, which was a horrible ordeal, and then cut out the pattern and traced it onto the fabric. And you will see, I forgot to take a photo before I started sewing. Or maybe I did. If I did, I can pop a picture here. But the fabric I am using is actually fabric that I thrifted for like 21 Australian dollars. And it was supposed to be the practice dress fabric, but if this goes well, it will be the final dress fabric, because I just think this fabric is so stunning. And it's so pretty, and I love the color. I have no idea what it is. It's definitely some sort of polyester synthetic, but it's a satin and it's so nice, and it's the perfect evening wear fabric. So I got it. And if I'm lucky, it won't go to waste, because another horrible trait I have is that I'm convinced I don't need to do a mock-up. Or well, in this instance, I was actually going to do one. But I'm also really hoping that it won't actually be the mock-up, if you know what I mean. So now let's get into it.
Okay, so we're starting out with the top part of the dress that's meant to cover the bust. This is the only part of the dress that is lined, which, based on how the rest of this video goes, is probably a very good thing. So for this section, I had to cut out 4 pieces. One of each piece for the outside of the dress and one of each piece for the lining. And right now you'll see that I am sitting here painstakingly clipping the pieces that need to be sewn together. And the reason for that is, 1, I didn't have any pins at the time that wouldn't leave holes in the satin. And 2, satin is really slippery. And so I had to make sure they were like properly clipped together, so that the fabric wouldn't slip around too much when I tried to sew it. In addition to the ASMR aspect of it all, I also wanted to make sure that there was a clip of real-time sewing here, so you could see how slow I had to go to make sure that the pieces were sewn together properly. Because I've constantly been misled by videos online that make me think that people are sewing a lot faster than they actually are. I should also probably say that because the satin frays so much, I did spend a good chunk of prep time zigzag stitching around all the edges of all my pieces except the skirt pieces because they were too big. And I got really impatient about it, but I probably should have done that too because the skirt pieces frayed so much. And while it was a good thing to do, some of the work was negated by the fact that I had to cut into the seam allowance in places anyway, and then it started fraying again. But anyway, we have now done the bust darts on all of the top pieces. I do think the next time I make this dress, though, I will do the bust dart slightly differently, probably a bit shorter because it is made for a bigger bust. Also, while I remember, the pattern wanted like a fusible cotton tape that's cut on the bias for the armhole bits of the dress and some other bits of the dress. And then it wanted a fusible cotton tape not cut on the bias for the zipper part of the dress and around the pockets. And I could not find cotton tape anywhere. I don't know what the cotton tape is supposed to be referring to. I don't know if that's just like user error or my inability to search for things. But I looked at local craft and sewing stores that I had and I couldn't find any. So I thrifted this fusible bias tape. And so I figured same thing, like it's bias tape, it's cut on the bias, it still has that like movement and stretch to it and it's fusible. So I figured I could use that instead. And then I also got a non-fusible cotton tape. I had to go and get it. This stuff also thrifted that I think I can use around the zippers and the pockets. I just need to look up how to apply it. But yeah, so if anyone actually knows what the cotton tape stuff is supposed to be, please tell me. Back on my makeshift floor ironing board. This is so dumb, but it actually took me forever to understand what they'd wanted me to do next. But at the current moment, we've got the two top front pieces together, and I just need to iron down the seam allowance and do the same thing to the lining. And then I'm assuming, this isn't very aesthetic, but that's fine. I'm assuming I can then sew them together. Probably. Logic would tell me that that would be the next step, but I don't really know what I'm doing, so. All right, so I was semi-right. It actually just wanted me to connect it here, 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 and here. I imagine so that this bit can be connected to the second bit of the torso pattern, which kind of makes sense. I did have to sew and then re-sew this side together because the satin's so slippery, the lining kept moving. And as a result, it ended up being like super bubbly and not sewn correctly. So we had to redo it. It's all part of the process. And we're going to see where we go from here. I have realized that I am stupid. And what I mean by this is, when I was cutting out the fabric, I don't think I had enough to cut out the lining from the same fabric as the actual dress fabric, which I thought was fine because I was like, the lining doesn't really matter. You're not going to see it. I can just use some cotton fabric that I have and it'll be all good. You know where you will see it? On the straps. So I've just sewn these straps and I was about to turn them inside out. And I was like, when I turn these inside out, for a visual, it'll be fine on the top and it will look all fine and dandy. However, when I tie it up from the back,
obviously once these are turned inside out, you will see the little brown bits with the bow. But this is looking like it's going to fit great, which is very promising. So the option now is to cut out some straps in the same fabric. I think I might have enough to go to about here, and then I'll clean up the edge of that strap and I will sew them together. So essentially this brown will be in between the two fabric pieces, and then I can turn the straps inside out and it will not be a problem. But I'm really annoyed about it.
A few moments later.
So it has been a little bit since that last take of me saying that I was going to fix the straps. And spoiler alert, I'm even dumber than I initially thought, because I didn't want to unpick all the brown lining from inside the straps, just because I thought you are currently balanced on a cat tree. And that was my cat jumping up onto the tree. But anyway, I didn't want to unpick all the brown lining from inside the straps just because I thought it would be such a trek. And so I put the additional purple layer on the other side of the brown lining. So it's like the two purple layers with the brown lining in the middle, because I was like, oh yeah, no, this will totally work. When I turn it inside out, you will just see the purple layers, which, as you could guess, is not the case if you think about that statement critically for like 1 second. But I thought I had done something there. And as you could guess, it didn't work. And so I then had to unpick 3 layers of fabric. And in doing so, one of the layers frayed so badly that it became unusable. And unfortunately for me, it was not the additional layer of purple fabric that I had put on, but it was the strap layer that was attached to the rest of the top of the dress. So I had to cut off that completely, make a new strap, and I thought the worst possible outcome would be that there would just be a line on the strap and that would ruin the aesthetics of it all. But it gets worse because the strap was too heavy to the point that I joined it on and then it started ripping off anyway. So all in all, I had to do this like band-aid fix. So now there's this square on my strap. I had to move you because the cat was annoyed with things on his cat tree and kept knocking over my phone. But anyway, I'm just really upset about it. And I know that the entire point of buying the fabric and filming this video and doing a practice dress was so I could find all the points that I would make mistakes when working on this and make sure I don't replicate it later with the proper fabric that I want to buy. But I still somehow feel like I've ruined the final dress, because I think a small part of me was kind of convinced that I would somehow be able to get this right on the first go, and I would be able to use this fabric and have a beautiful dress. But it doesn't look like it's going to be the case, which is fine. It was the point, but I'm still disappointed about it. But anyway, this is what the top is looking like now, regardless. So it's promising. If the rest of the dress, even though it's looking really, really unlikely, goes to plan, I might be able to cover up this little square with maybe some decorative lace or something, like some flowers or leaves going down to here. And I might still be able to wear this dress to something else. But for now, we are going to keep chugging along, because I'm sure there will be other issues in this entire process that will need to be spotted now. And I will check back in shortly. There is very little way for me to explain the precarious balancing act happening right now. However, we're going to cut out my head because I am struggling to get it in frame. But this is progress. Since we last spoke, I completed sewing together this front bit. So there's 1, 2, 3 panels at the front. I have, let me get that out of the way, sewn together the back. So there's 2 separate panels at the back. This is where the zipper goes. I am not concerned about the fact that it doesn't seem to close on the mannequin, because the mannequin has a bigger bust than I do, which is fine. I thrifted this for like $20 and it is one of my greatest finds.
Anyway, I've done the back. I've done the facing on the back. This is currently pinned to the mannequin, so I can't show you, but there's some facing on the inside here. And I've just sewn the back to the front. And you know what? From far away, it looks semi-decent. You can't see the 5 million mistakes I've made. And it almost looks really nice. The fabric is doing 90% of the work though, because it is a very beautiful fabric. But anyway, the only things I have left to do are the pockets, obviously the entire bottom bit, so the skirts with the pockets and the zipper, and then it'll be done. So you may or may not get some progress updates during that, depending on how much I struggle. Otherwise, the next time we speak, maybe the finished version. We'll see. If you can hear the dishwasher in the background, just ignore it. But for someone who likes buying dresses with pockets so much, I've never actually made a dress with pockets or a skirt with pockets, because I've always been convinced it'd be super, super hard. But I have just learnt that it is actually not very hard, and it's easy to hide it in the seam allowance, ignoring the fact that this fabric really needs to be ironed. But it's just very cool, and I'm really stoked about it. All right, so this is the final version. It's not perfect. It's a bit rough. That's what it looks like from the back. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. It's not as terrible as I thought it was going to be, but it's not perfect. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm thinking of trying some like embellishments and stuff to see if that makes me feel better. Otherwise, I might make another one that's better looking. Yeah. If there is an embellishments, I might try a cool transition like. It actually took way too long for the lace to come in, so I've scrapped the transition. But I finally got it in. Here's some extra bits of it. I'm just kind of planning how I want it to look on the dress. We will see how it goes. It's got potential, but we will see. Though I will say these are a bit more grey than purple as they looked in the photo, but I think it still works. I am currently hand sewing this applique on because, well, I have to, because the dress is basically finished. And it's taking forever, but I thought now would be a good time to say that I actually cut open the lining and I put some bust cups in both of the busts on the front. So I did that here. I just need to, once again, hand stitch this around the raw edges. And I did that because I don't know if you noticed with the try on videos, but it looks like the pattern was made for someone with a much bigger bust than I have. And it felt like the cup section was gaping a little bit. So that was my fix, and I just thought it was a fun tip because it looks a lot better on. I'll show you later. But yeah, I have to hand sew this on, and I have to hand sew it only to the top layer, which once again sucks. I've put the cup back in just to show you this, but I'm going to take it back out so I can go in through the side to go up through the first layer and then continue hand stitching it on very, very carefully to try not to stitch the top to the lining in a way that means I can't put the bust cup back in. So it's been a whole ordeal, but hopefully this will be done in, I don't know, a couple hours. I'm listening to an audiobook. And then we'll see how it looks. And then I'm also getting in some like rhinestones that act like beads so I can sew that in all throughout in the little gaps. I have a vision. I think it's going to look great. We'll see. Who knows? All right. I've been hand sewing this for ages, like probably hours. So I've just put it back on the dress form. Sorry, my hand holding of the camera is a bit crooked. Also, my dress form is crooked, so that's not helping. I put it back on there so I can plan out where the rest of the flowers will go. So probably around here and here. And I also still need to finish hand sewing like some little sticky outy bits like this and this. I think it's looking okay. Let me know what you think. Though, if you hate it, it will make me sad. So remember that. No, in all honesty, it's taking forever.
and I'm a little bit exhausted with it, but I'm kind of keen to see how it turns out. I know you won't be seeing this until it's finished, but this is what the final positioning I think will look like. So I just need to sew down these bits because the top bit is basically done. So let me know what you think. I had a very good pastry for breakfast, and the sun is out for the first time in like over a week. And it actually looks like a very nice day outside, save for some wind. And I spent the morning drawing, and I intend to spend the rest of the day sewing. So really taking advantage of the nice sunny day today. Anyway, let's see how much of this dress I can get finished. I have finally finished sewing down the florals. So it's almost done. I'm just tossing up between a couple things, and I'm waiting for my little rhinestone beads to come in so I can add some sparkle and bedazzling, and then it'll be ready to go. So hopefully the next update is the finished dress, but we'll see. So those beaded rhinestones finally came in, and I thought it'd be super cute to do a sped up sewing montage of me putting those beads on. However, this little clip you're seeing is like a 20 times sped up version of a 10-minute clip. So this little bit is all you're going to get because I could not film the entire process. However, this means that I can now show you the finished dress. So I started making this dress at the end of July, and it is now mid-September. And granted, a lot of the delay was waiting for things to come, but still. So this is the final dress. I have no idea how I'm going to style it on the day, because the only heels I own are these ones, which I bought for a beach wedding, and the black ones I wear to work. And I don't think either of them fit the vibe of this dress quite how I want it. I'm also very much loving the pockets, but I also don't know what I'm going to do with my hair because I have very frizzy, curly hair. It's very hard to style. And I only vaguely have a concept of what I want to do with my makeup. So, closer to the date, I am going to tidy up little bits and pieces on the dress, steam it, iron it, obviously, but for the most part, it's done. She travels very well. She's got a nice flow. Don't think it shows up well on camera, but the beading is very sparkly. I've tried to put my flash on to highlight it, but I don't think it's working, but I'm really happy with the result. Especially for the first proper formal dress I've ever made. She's not perfect. She's got a lot of problems, actually, but no one's going to be close enough to me to see them, so. At this point, who cares other than me? A lot. I realized I forgot to film an outro, so we're back with you on the catchery and me on the living room floor, featuring the morning coffee. If you watched the whole video, thank you. Let me know what you think below. Even if you didn't watch the whole video and you just jumped around to whatever interested you, also fine. Let me know what you think below. If you have any tips on how to make this more seamless next time, also please let me know, because I do want to make the same dress but in this like teal green fabric, because I think it would work well with my skin tone, and I also just think it would look great. I am thinking of adjusting the neckline slightly though, so off the bat it's a bit higher. Because I forgot to mention this earlier, but another big reason and slightly more selfish reason for starting this channel is so I can consult the collective brains trust that is the YouTube sewing community. Because the one time I posted on the r/sewing Reddit group, I got a really helpful and insightful response on this fabric I wanted to use for a project. So any tips, feedback, whatever, very much appreciated. And I suppose I should start doing this since it's the first video, but comment, like, subscribe if you want to. And I will see you in the next one. Who knows what it's going to be, because I don't.